Hey everybody, it's meteorologist Brad Penovich. Hope you're having a great Tuesday. Meteorologist Aisha Scott is going to talk about why the seasons occur. We're in the spring season right now, and we didn't have much of a winter, but we did have a winter season, at least a little bit, and we're heading towards summer. Now, why do those seasons occur? Well, it has a lot to do with our relationship with the sun, the earth, and the tilt on our axis, and meteorologist Aisha Scott's going to talk more about that coming up today.
I am meteorologist Aisha Scott, and today we are talking about the seasons and why we have them. All right, so we've got 4 seasons, right? Winter, summer, spring, and fall. So currently we are in spring, and the pollen has been crazy, but we'll get through it. In the spring, everything is blooming. That's why we also have the pollen issues. And sometimes we're coming off of a harsh winter in the spring. So it's a breath of fresh air in a sense that everything is blooming again. So the grass is greener and the trees are blooming. So the flowers and everything starts to come back. Speaking of winter, winters are typically much colder. We sometimes see snow in the winter here in the Carolinas, even ice. The summertime, I think, may be some people's favorite season because you can head to the beaches or you can go to the pool. You can break out your shorts and your dresses and your skirts maybe to cool you off a little bit. And then we have the fall, which fall is a pretty season because the leaves start to change colors and then those leaves eventually fall, obviously getting us ready for the winter. So we have 4 seasons, but here's the reason that we have those seasons. The Earth is divided into 2 halves, the Northern Hemisphere and the Southern Hemisphere. All right. So we are located in North America. So we're in the Northern Hemisphere. The Earth is actually tilted on its axis. So it spins also on its axis, and it's tilted at an angle of about 23.5 degrees. Okay, so the Earth revolves around the sun, believe it or not, making a full orbit every 365.25 days. That's why we have roughly 365 days in a year. All right, so let's talk about the summer and winter seasons as it relates to the Northern Hemisphere and the Southern Hemisphere. So when the Northern Hemisphere is experiencing summer, it is closest to the sun. So we're getting that direct sunlight, which in turn, it heats us up quickly. And obviously summer is the hottest season of the year. So it is much hotter because of that direct sunlight. But the opposite is true for the Southern Hemisphere. When the Northern Hemisphere is in summer, the Southern Hemisphere is in winter because they're getting that indirect sunlight, which in turn makes them cooler. When the Southern Hemisphere, however, is closest to the sun, they're getting that direct sunlight, so they are in summer, which in turn, the Northern Hemisphere is pointing away from the sun. So we're getting that indirect sunlight, and that actually puts us in winter. So you see it's opposite. When the Northern Hemisphere is in summer, the Southern Hemisphere is in winter. When the Southern Hemisphere is in summer, the Northern Hemisphere is in winter. But what happens when neither is true? So when the Earth isn't tilted towards or away from the sun, but let's say in the middle, that's when you get spring and you get fall. Now, also known as the vernal equinox and the autumnal equinox, respectively. Now, the equinox is Latin for equal night. So on the equinox, night and day are almost the same length, 12 hours. So during the spring and fall, we have equal amounts of sunlight. So in conclusion, summer is direct sunlight, longer days and shorter nights. In the winter, you have indirect sunlight, shorter days and longer nights. So for this experiment, I have a flashlight, which represents the sun. I have a piece of paper and also a rock, and that's going to represent the Earth. So you'll notice I have the flashlight directly over this piece of rock. So the sun's rays are directly shining on this piece of rock. The area where you see the light here is more concentrated, it's smaller, so it's hotter. However, in the winter time, what happens is you get an angle. So you get that indirect sunlight. So the light is covering a larger area. Therefore, it's not quite as hot. But the sun is still hitting the Earth. You can see that here, but it's just not as intense. So we don't have as in as direct light as we would, say, in the summertime, so it is cooler.
All right, Aisha, thank you so much. Today's topic was seasons, and it is always interesting to see how we transition from spring to summer. A lot of folks often think, hey, we had a mild winter. Does that mean we're going to have a hot summer? Not necessarily. The thing about weather patterns here in the Carolinas, it is rare that the winter pattern means anything for summer because the patterns are so distinctly different, and because the jet stream goes back to the north, there really is no correlation from winters and summers here. There is quite a bit of correlation from spring to summer and summer to fall. Those are much more closer in relationship to how those impact us. The biggest determining factor on our summers here, believe it or not, is whether we get rain or not. If we get a lot of rain, that means we have more clouds and less sunshine. Usually means cooler temperatures. When we're in a drought in the summer, those are usually the blazing hot summers because we have more intense sunshine and less cloud cover. There just aren't any cold fronts in the summertime. The one thing that keeps us from getting blazing hot is keeping that ridge of high pressure off to the east and keeping the sun at bay, at least for a little bit.